What do you mean we're losing customers at Store 9 when their reviews are spotless? Kellan Faulkner leaned forward in his office chair, tapping the side of the tablet showing financials for all 11 restaurants in his family's small but growing casual dining chain. His father had started the business 27 years ago with a single location. Kellan had taken over last year, and things had been going well until recently. Store 9, located in a busy shopping center just outside of Indianapolis, had dropped in revenue by nearly 15% over the last 3 months. Not enough to trigger a full-blown crisis, but enough to raise flags when the customer reviews remained unusually high. Could be a reporting error, his CFO said over the speakerphone. Or something's going on we're not seeing, Kellan muttered. He looked at the screen again. I'm going there myself. You think they'll recognize you? No chance, I've never met the staff. It's a newer location opened just 8 months ago. I've only talked to the district manager and I'll make sure he's not there when I go. He paused. I'll go in as a customer. Keep it simple. 2 days later, Kellan walked into Store 9 wearing jeans, an old hoodie, and a slight Midwestern accent he'd picked up during college. His beard was fuller than usual, and a pair of thick glasses sat on his nose. No one gave him a second look. The place was clean, but the energy felt off. The young hostess barely looked up when he entered. Table for one? Yeah, Kellan nodded. Quiet corner if you've got it. She led him to a booth near the back where the kitchen door swung open and closed. The place was only half full, but the staff looked rushed. A woman at the table next to him waved for a refill 3 times before giving up. A man in a red shirt muttered after being ignored, "This is my last time coming here." 10 minutes passed. No one brought him a menu. When a waiter finally came by, he looked flustered, sweat on his brow and eyes darting around. Sorry, welcome to I'll get you a menu, just 1 second, I'll be right back." No rush, Kellan said calmly. Could I get a glass of water, though? The young man nodded, already walking away. Kellan watched him vanish behind the kitchen door. Another 10 minutes passed. Still no water. He stood up, stretched like he was going to the restroom, and slipped into the hallway near the back exit. There, just outside the staff door, the same waiter sat on a crate, shoulders shaking. His apron was in his lap, face buried in his hands. Kellan stepped back, giving the kid a moment. But then the young man looked up, wiping his face quickly. "I'm fine," he said automatically. "You sure?" Kellan asked gently. "You don't look fine." The kid hesitated, then shook his head. "It's just, I'm working double shifts every day since last month. There's only 4 of us servers left, everyone else quit." "Why?" Kellan asked. The kid looked up, eyes red. "Manager's cousin got hired as assistant manager. She cut hours for everyone who complained about her. Anyone who was close to the old assistant, gone, fired, or forced out. Now we're drowning." Kellan's stomach twisted. "What's your name?" "Jace. You told anyone higher up?" "No one listens." "We haven't seen the district manager in forever, and if you complain to our manager, she just says if you don't like it, leave." Kellan nodded slowly. "Thanks for telling me, Jace." Jace stood up quickly. "Please don't say anything, I need this job." "I get it," Kellan said softly. "Your secret's safe with me." He returned to his table, sat down, and watched the staff move like they were sleepwalking. The manager, blonde, mid-30s, loud, stood by the hostess stand, scrolling on her phone. She barked orders at the staff when they came too close but didn't lift a finger to help. Later, as he left, Kellan noticed Jace again, this time being scolded in front of customers for wasting time in the back. The manager's voice was sharp. "You're not paid to cry." "You're paid to move." Jace just nodded, head down. Kellan clenched his jaw and walked out. He got in his rental car, hands gripping the wheel. This was bigger than a slow quarter. This was a leadership problem, a culture problem, and he had just scratched the surface. The next morning, Kellan returned to Store 9 at opening time, dressed the same. He didn't want to draw attention. His plan was simple: blend in, observe more, and get a deeper look at how things actually ran. Yesterday had shown symptoms. Today was about getting to the root. He parked across the lot and waited until the first wave of lunch prep began. Through the window, he saw the same manager from the day before unlocking the doors and walking in with a large iced coffee. She didn't greet the staff already inside. No clipboard, no morning huddle, no prep instructions. She vanished into the back office, door closing behind her. He waited another 10 minutes, then walked in and approached the counter. The hostess from yesterday was folding silverware into napkins alone. She looked up briefly. "Hey, you back?" "Yeah," Kellan said casually. "Thought I'd grab lunch again. Mind if I sit at the bar?" "Go ahead," she said without looking up again. He sat at the far end of the bar near the service station. A different server today, a woman in her late 20s with tired eyes and a faded tattoo along her forearm, was restocking straws and sugar packets. She moved mechanically, eyes scanning the dining area. Kellan leaned in slightly, voice friendly. "You guys always this short in the mornings?" She gave a slight shrug, didn't stop working. "We're always short, period." "That bad?" The woman paused, glanced around, then lowered her voice. "I've been here 5 months. We had a different assistant manager when I started. She was fair, knew the floor, backed us up. Then she left, don't know the full reason, just didn't come back after a weekend. 2 weeks later, the new one came in. Since then, people been dropping like flies." Kellan nodded slowly. "You mean the woman who was yelling last night?" She looked at him sharply, then back at the bar. "You saw that?" "I did. She does that a lot, picks people to target, especially the younger ones. Jace, she's on him constantly, says he's too slow, too sensitive. He's the only one who still says please to customers." He absorbed that, keeping his expression neutral. The bartender came out from the back with a crate of glassware. Kellan recognized him from yesterday, a guy with a thick beard and sleeves rolled tightly past his elbows. He looked annoyed already. "Walk-ins down again," he muttered to the server. "That's the 3rd time this month." She gave a tight nod. "Did you tell her? Why bother? She said it's not urgent. Meanwhile, I've tossed 2 cases of produce this week." Kellan made a note of that. Equipment failure ignored. Spoilage. That explained part of the cost discrepancies. The assistant manager entered from the back office, sipping her drink. She didn't acknowledge anyone. Her eyes scanned the room briefly and landed on Kellan. "You've been here before, haven't you?" "Yesterday," he said. "I remember you sat forever and didn't even order." "I tried," he said calmly. She narrowed her eyes slightly, then turned. "Clean the windows on the front doors," she told the hostess sharply. "They look disgusting. They were just done." "I said clean them." The hostess stood and walked off without responding. Kellan watched the manager return to the office without checking the kitchen, the line, or any prep station. He turned back to the bartender. "How long have you been here?" "Since the opening. I helped train the first crew." He wiped down a section of the bar, then leaned in slightly. "You corporate?" "What makes you say that?" "Something about the way you're watching. Plus, you're not local, I can tell." Kellan gave a small nod. "Let's say I'm interested in how this place is run." The bartender gave a humorless laugh. "Then get ready to be disappointed." A door near the kitchen swung open and Jace emerged, carrying a stack of clean plates. He looked exhausted. His shirt was damp at the collar and there were faint shadows under his eyes. Kellan motioned him over. "Hey," he said. "You hanging in?" Jace gave a small shrug. "Back-to-back doubles, I'll be fine." He gave a weak smile. "They let me off an hour early tomorrow." Kellan's jaw tightened. "You get a break today." "Technically. I get a half hour around 2 if it's slow, but it's never slow." "Anyone ever offer to help?" "Most people are too busy protecting themselves." "And the manager?" Jace didn't answer, just looked away. Kellan stood up and walked toward the restrooms. But instead of going in, he veered into the corridor leading to dry storage. The door was ajar and he could hear voices. The manager was inside, talking to someone on speakerphone. Her tone was casual. "I told her she could either cut her attitude or find another job," she cried. "Like in the middle of the shift. Can you believe that? I mean, who hires people that soft?" Brief pause. "No, I haven't filed the write-up yet. I'm letting her sweat a bit. Maybe she'll quit on her own." Another pause. Yeah, Jace too, he's not gonna last, keeps whining about fairness. Like I'm here to babysit. Kellan stepped back, blood rising fast in his ears. He returned to the bar, sat down, the bartender glanced at him. You all right? Not for long, Kellan said. He waited until the lunch rush picked up. The restaurant filled quickly around noon, and the staff hustled to keep up. Jace was juggling 4 tables and running food. The bartender was now bussing his own section because no busser had shown up. The server who spoke with Kellan earlier had to cover a takeout order that had been sitting on the counter for 20 minutes. The manager was on her phone. Then it happened. An older couple at a front booth called for assistance. Their server was tied up with a large party, so Jace rushed over, took their order, and apologized for the delay. They seemed understanding, but the assistant manager came storming over less than a minute later. You're not supposed to touch that section. Stay in your lane, Jace. They were waiting too long. I don't care, you don't make those calls. They just needed someone. Do you want to go home early? She snapped. He froze. Because we can arrange that. The couple looked deeply uncomfortable. Jace stood silent, hands trembling slightly. Kellan stood, loud enough for the entire front of house to hear. He said, "That's enough." Heads turned, the manager turned slowly. "Excuse me?" Kellan pulled off his glasses. "You're done here." A beat of silence. "Who the hell do you think you are?" "I'm Kellan Faulkner," he said evenly. "Founder's son, CEO since last year." The room went still. Jace's mouth opened, then shut. The bartender stepped away from the bar, watching carefully, the manager's face drained of color. "Wait, what? You're finished," Kellan said. "Go to the office. Now." She hesitated, then stormed off. Kellan turned to the staff. "I'm staying the rest of the day," he said. "No one's getting fired for speaking up. If you've been holding things in, now's the time to talk." The bartender spoke first. "You've got bigger problems than just her." Kellan nodded. "I'd like to hear about all of them." And from the looks on their faces, they were ready. The air inside the restaurant had shifted. A heavy silence clung to the space long after Kellan revealed who he was. No one moved at first. Jace stood frozen near the older couple's booth, eyes flicking between the other staff and the office door the manager had just disappeared behind. The hostess had stopped mid-fold, napkin still in hand, watching from the front. Kellan turned toward the couple who'd been caught in the middle of the confrontation. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," he said gently. "Your meal's on us today." The man nodded slowly. "We could tell something wasn't right here." Kellan gave a brief nod, then looked over at the bartender, whose sleeves were now rolled halfway down as he leaned against the counter. "What's your name?" "Reed." "You said there were deeper issues." "I want to hear them." Reed glanced toward the swinging door that led to the kitchen. "You want to do this now? Lunch rush is still rolling." "I'll help cover," Kellan said. "Grab whoever's in the kitchen. I need to talk to everyone at once." Reed blinked. "You're serious?" Kellan was already pulling off his hoodie. Beneath it was a plain black t-shirt. "I'm not here to watch anymore." Within 10 minutes, the remaining front-of-house staff, Jace, Reed, the hostess, and the 2 servers were gathered near the back prep area. The line cook stayed in the kitchen, continuing orders, but Kellan made sure he could hear from the pass window. Kellan stood beside the prep table, arms crossed. "I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I need the truth." "How long has this been going on?" The older of the 2 servers, a woman in her 40s with cropped hair and a weathered apron, crossed her arms. "Since the promotion. We went from understaffed to barely functioning." "What's keeping you here?" Kellan asked. "Why not walk away?" She looked toward the kitchen. "My son's in culinary school. I need the insurance." The younger server, the one with the tattoo, leaned against the wall. "I've been applying to other places, but no one's hiring full-time right now. I can't afford to lose hours." The hostess, who hadn't spoken much, finally did. Her voice was quiet. "I'm 17. This is my first job. I didn't know it wasn't supposed to feel like this." A beat passed. Kellan spoke carefully. "I heard the assistant manager on a call earlier. She was trying to pressure a team member to quit. She mentioned targeting others. That ends now." She's terminated, effective immediately. Jace shifted his weight but didn't speak. She's not the only problem, Reed said. Inventory's been off for weeks. Deliveries are late and we've tossed more spoiled goods than we should. I've flagged it in the system, but I don't think anyone's reading the logs. Kellan nodded. Has anyone from regional been on site recently? The cropped hair server laughed without humor. Last time anyone from corporate came through was before the holidays. They shook hands, took a few photos, and left. Kellan looked toward the kitchen. What about back of house? Anyone I need to speak with? Reed stepped in. We've got one line cook left that's full time. Everyone else quit or got reassigned. The guy in there now, Lewis, he's solid. He's been pulling double duty to keep up, but he's burning out. I'll speak with him, Kellan said. He paused, then looked around the group. I'm not here to wave a wand and pretend this gets fixed overnight. But things change starting today. We're bringing in temporary staff from nearby locations to cover the next 2 weeks. I'm also assigning a regional operations supervisor to this location full-time until we stabilize. The older server raised a brow. That mean we're getting a new manager, already in motion, Kellan said. She'll be here tomorrow, someone with a track record of team development and stability. The hostess let out a breath she'd been holding. Kellan turned to Jace. Can I speak with you for a minute? Jace followed him into the hallway near the office. The door was still closed. Kellan didn't bother knocking. I heard what she said about you, Kellan said, voice low. You didn't deserve that. Jace looked down. I just tried to help people. You did more than that. You kept this place afloat longer than you should have had to. Kellan paused. What's your plan long-term? Jace hesitated. I wanted to finish my associate's degree. I'm halfway through. Been taking night classes, but the hours here, Kellan nodded. What would it take to make that possible? Jace blinked. Honestly, a stable schedule. Weekends off when I've got exams, maybe a shot at server lead someday. You've got it, Kellan said. Jace's eyes widened. Wait, really? You've earned it, Kellan said. Starting next week, you'll be part-time with set hours around your class schedule, and we'll cover this semester's tuition. Consider it an investment. Jace swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Kellan said. Just keep doing what you've been doing with support this time. Back in the main area, the lunch rush had thinned. The older couple had finished their meal and waved Kellan over as he walked through the dining room. You've got good people here, the man said. Just needed someone to notice. I've noticed, Kellan said. Thanks for your patience today. He returned to the prep area where the others had resumed their duties. Reed was wiping down the bar with more energy than earlier. The tattooed server was helping the hostess organize the front counter. Kellan stepped into the kitchen. Lewis was plating a burger, sweat on his brow, moving with muscle memory and tension. Got a second? Kellan asked. Lewis didn't stop what he was doing. If it's quick, I'm Kellan, CEO. Lewis blinked, then set down the burger and turned. You're the guy she was talking about yesterday, probably, Kellan said. I heard you've been holding this kitchen together. Lewis gave a half shrug. I'm just trying to keep orders from crashing. You have a sous chef background? Yeah, did 3 years at a spot downtown before they closed. This was supposed to be temporary. What would make it permanent? Lewis raised a brow. A second pair of hands and someone who actually orders produce on time. You'll get both, Kellan said. We've got a kitchen lead transferring in from store 3. And we're bringing in a new vendor, one I trust. Lewis nodded once. Then I'm in. By the end of the afternoon, Kellan had spoken with every member of the remaining crew. He stayed through the dinner prep, watching them work. The difference was subtle, but it was their less tension, quieter movements, fewer sideways glances. No one had to second-guess whether they'd be yelled at. When the new temporary shift manager arrived from another store that evening, Kellan introduced her to each employee personally. He stayed until the close checklist began, then walked out into the parking lot with Reed beside him. You're not what I expected, Reed said. What did you expect? Another guy in a suit who'd tell us we're lucky to have a job. Kellan smiled, tired. I've been behind a bar before. I know what it takes, Reed nodded slowly. If you can keep this going, people will stay. I intend to. Kellan looked back at the restaurant, then turned to his car. Tomorrow starts differently, and this time he meant it. The following morning, Kellan was already at Store 9 before sunrise, standing in the back hallway with a clipboard and a black apron over his shirt. He had no intention of sitting in an office. If this location was going to change, it had to come from the floor up. The team needed to see that leadership didn't just speak in announcements, they showed up, sleeves rolled. The temporary shift manager from Store 3, Rena, arrived shortly after. She was in her early 40s, calm-eyed and efficient without being cold. Kellan had handpicked her not just for her operational skill, but because she had a reputation for quietly rebuilding morale in underperforming locations without asking for credit. "What do you need from me today?" she asked as she tied her apron. "Eyes and ears," Kellan said. "And honesty if I miss anything." "Deal." When the rest of the team trickled in, there was a noticeable shift in how they entered, less guarded, more focused. No one said it out loud, but the absence of the former assistant manager was felt like a window had been cracked open in a stuffy room. Jace arrived next, his hair still damp from a rushed shower, but his face was different, less drawn, more alert. "You're early," Kellan said. "Didn't sleep much," Jace replied. But for once it wasn't from stress. "Just wanted to be ready." "You'll be on floor support with Rena today," Kellan told him. "She'll show you how we run things when they're working right." Jace nodded. "I'm ready to learn." Lewis entered through the back, carrying a small container of homemade salsa in one hand. He gave Kellan a simple nod, then made his way to the kitchen without a word. The new line cook, Travis, followed a few minutes later, young, precise, and transferred in from Store 2. He was quiet but fast, and Lewis had already taken to him. By mid-morning, the restaurant was humming, not perfect, but no longer unraveling. Orders were moving, customers were being greeted within seconds, and the kitchen's rhythm had started to resemble a team instead of a series of emergencies. Rena pulled Kellan aside near the dish pit. "Walk-in needs a new seal, and there's a slow leak under the mop sink," she said. "Neither are emergencies, but they need eyes this week." "Already sent a maintenance request," Kellan said. "Anything from the staff?" "Hostess is asking if we'll keep her on weekends only once school starts back up." "Approve it. She's 16. You'll need a guardian consent form for the new schedule. I'll get it from her mom tomorrow." They moved back to the main floor. A woman at table 12 called Jace over to ask about vegetarian menu options. He didn't hesitate. "We've got a black bean patty, grilled portobello, and a quinoa bowl." "I'll double-check with the kitchen on prep, but you're covered." Kellan watched him work the table, calm, present, and no longer bracing for correction. By early afternoon, a familiar vehicle pulled into the parking lot, a dark blue sedan with the district operations manager, Brent, behind the wheel. Kellan met him at the front doors before he could step inside. Brent was in his late 30s, always dressed crisp and eager to talk strategy, but Kellan's expression stopped him cold. "We need to talk," Kellan said. "Outside." Brent followed him back toward the side loading zone. "I've been getting your reports," Kellan said, "and I've read every one from the last 6 months for this location." "If this is about the staffing drops, it's about your absence," Kellan interrupted. "You didn't step foot in here once during the last quarter." "I had 3 regions to cover." "I delegated daily check-ins, you delegated crisis to the people causing it," Kellan said. "You didn't follow up when you got complaints. You didn't investigate turnover. You rubber-stamped inventory loss as seasonal fluctuation." Brent looked uncomfortable. "I trusted the on-site leadership. You trusted someone who was actively harassing employees off the schedule." Brent fell silent. "I'm reassigning you," Kellan said. "Effective immediately. You'll be working under our compliance director until further notice." "No field duties." Brent's eyes flicked up. "You're serious?" "I'm serious enough to have HR waiting for you at headquarters this afternoon." Brent didn't argue, just nodded, understanding that the conversation was over. When he drove off, Kellan returned to the host stand where Rena was reviewing the evening schedule with the hostess. "Everything okay?" she asked. "It is now," Kellan said. Dinner service brought a steady stream of guests, including a group of first responders from the nearby fire station. They were regulars who hadn't been in for weeks. Reed offered them their usual booth without being asked. "We stopped coming," one of them said, "because the vibe got weird." "It's better now," Reed said simply. They stayed for an hour. Just before closing, Kellan gathered everyone in the back corridor again, not as a lecture, just a moment. "I can't undo what you've been through," he said. "But starting tomorrow, this store gets a full reset. That includes wage adjustments for all hourly staff to match our highest performing stores. It also means every employee here today will receive a one-time retention bonus at the end of the month." There were a few stunned looks, but no one interrupted. "We're also starting a monthly listening session," Kellan continued. "In person or virtual, your choice. I'll attend the first. After that, you'll rotate who leads it. You set the agenda, and it won't be optional for management." Reed crossed his arms. "You think that'll stop people from slipping through the cracks?" "No," Kellan said, "but it'll make sure we're not pretending things are fine when they're not." Jace cleared his throat. "What if someone new comes in and tries to run things like before? What if we end up back there?" Kellan looked him in the eye. "Then it's my job to make sure they don't last a day." The meeting ended not with applause, but with something more real: quiet nods, slow exhales, and people returning to their stations without dread. As the last guests left and the team began closing procedures, Kellan stepped outside to make a call. "Hey," he said into the phone. "Yeah, it's me. We're pulling all store reviews starting next week. I don't care if they're 5 stars, we're verifying them against internal conditions. If a store is showing perfect scores but losing staff, I want boots on the ground immediately." He paused, listening. "No, don't send a memo. I'm doing the first 3 personally." When he stepped back inside, the lights were dimmed, chairs were stacked, and music had been turned off. Reed handed him a copy of the new schedule. "Looks clean," Kellan said. "Feels different," Reed replied. Kellan nodded. "Let's keep it that way." The door locked behind him as he left. The parking lot was quiet, and the sky had turned that deep blue just before full dark. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't wondering what else was falling apart. He knew what was broken, and more importantly, he knew how to fix it.